Right. Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope first of all, I want to thank you for being here, and most importantly, our guests, the leaders who came to join us on this day. And I want to thank my colleague, co-founder of this African School of Governance. And so now, the meaning of it all, the African School of Governance, and then the mindset reset. I think a number of speakers who spoke earlier, from President Mbeki to CD of African Development Bank and Francis Gatari earlier, they made very important points, indicating what Africa is, what the African problems are, what African solutions could be, and everyone of us in between, and what we can contribute. I think everything was well put. So in the mindset reset, we should be questioning ourselves really and seriously. Because if we look back in history for a number of years, Africa has gone through so many challenges, and Africa has made progress in many areas. There's no question about it. Where our Africa was 50 years ago, and the thinking, it's not where Africa is today. Africa has made much progress, fallen short on many things, evidently, or failed here and there, but I think there's very good progress. And the most complex problem we have to face is, and having heard from the leaders who spoke earlier, it seems Africa has everything in place to succeed. It really does. It does. It has people, it has resources, it has the history that we have or should have learned a lot of lessons from. But looking back again, every day there are discussions about our continent, whether at the African Union or in other settings, and sometimes ourselves discussing, and sometimes other people discussing us. I mean, we just can't stay in one place where we are discussing our problems and evidently convincing ourselves, and rightly so, that we have more or less all we need to be where we want to be at any point in time. But we are not there. We don't get there. So the problems have been well put by the speakers. Now the task is, how do we change all this? Meaning, how do we change from a position where we have everything we need and we are clear about what to do and about where we have to be. I mean, the term when You know, there's the Africa we want has been repeated so much. Yes, there's Africa we want. Why can't we have the Africa we want, since we have everything in place? So it means there's something we have to identify that keeps failing us. And therefore, take the bull by its horns and deal with what we have to deal with. So the school here, I think it's a school, an institution of knowledge. People will definitely benefit in that area. It's also going to be an institution, maybe, to kind of act as a reminder to us that there is a hard task ahead of us, nonetheless doable, that we have kept falling short on for so many years, and we have to be here, whether through research or discussion or observation or the knowledge we gather here, that we have to act upon and change. We have to change our continent, but we can't change our continent without changing our behavior, our way of doing things, our attitudes. We certainly have to, and we can't keep saying things about what we have to do and then start doing different things. I mean, we have to match what we say, what we want, with what we do, and then be able to see the results. I mean, there are no two ways about it. We can't keep running around in circles and sometimes congratulating ourselves, sometimes hugging each other, and then doing this. But after a year, or 3 years, or 5 years, when we look back, we find we are either in the same place where we were, or even, moved backwards. I mean, we human beings, Africans, even human beings, we need to challenge ourselves and say, why? Why do we have even gone to a point where we are reduced to simply admiring others. And others meaning not others among us, no, others outside of the continent. Why don't we do things so that we can actually admire each other among us? There are people who are capable of doing good things, and why don't we join them and do exactly that instead? And that attitude, that mindset of admiring others is what reduces us to being subjects of all kinds of dictates. And for us, we are reduced to lamenting and complaining and you see. I mean, we just have to, and this is a place, this is a school, that's ideas here that really we should reflect on, and that should drive our behaviors and actions going forward.
Thank you so much. It's a lot of food for thought. We heard that you even go as far as recognizing policies are in place, instruments are in place, but we're not implementing. Before I come to you, Madam Vice President, please allow me to just ask the room 2 questions following President Kagame's remarks. Do you love yourselves as Africans? Do we? I want you to ask yourself that and think, how do I feel? And if you feel like you rousingly love yourself and you love our African continent, please let me hear you clap. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. So that is not the problem. Do you believe in yourself and your African neighbor to solve the challenges that you face? Yes or no? It was a bit less.
I think it is both.
It is both.
Yeah, from what I observed. It is yes and no.
Yes and no. It's a mix. So we're starting to understand, right? So maybe there are questions of trust, there are questions of understanding, and we'll come back to that. Madam Vice President, I think recently we saw you make a commitment around digital protocols that will really aid the African continental free trade area, and I think there's something coming up with Ghana, Zambia, and Rwanda, I believe. And so you're in that space of doing, and so I want to recognize that before I pose a question. Let's give her a round of applause for really driving transformation that will help payment systems, that will help digital identities, that will help so much for trade in Africa. When you look at the mindset issue, what do you think is the biggest problem we're facing? What is the mindset we need to shift?
Thank you very much, and let me greet everybody in this room. Thank President Kagame for this kind reception, and to send you greetings from my President John Dramani Mahama, and from the beautiful people of Ghana. Madam, thank you. Thank you for your question. What is missing? That's a very important question, because we have not been short of policies, of plans. We learn from primary school going forward what Africa is endowed with, and that is positive. So why are we here? I want to recognize the speakers who have come before me in the plenary and so on, and to say that I feel one of the things we are missing is to understand our history. Who have we been? Where have we come from? And then why are we here? What has our past been like? Who has been telling our story? Who is defining who we are and who we can be? So it is taking agency. It is taking action. It is about taking charge of who we can be. It is not about others defining for us. And this takes us into what our forebears have done. We are talking about from Pan-Africanism to Meta-Africanism. Pan-Africanism was at some point a radical expression of continental unity for a reason. And the reason per force that continues to stay is how we can come together and do things for ourselves as a people. And that also takes root from taking charge of why we are even doing this, what's the rationale, and what is left for us to do. And I want to commend the school for, for governance, and I want to humbly suggest that the theories are based on research we have done and not extending research others have done. Otherwise, we'll come back here. So I want us to comment on the way in which we even conceive our curriculum. So going forward, yes, we are here. Why are we here? Why do we have so much and yet we are so poor? So what is stopping us from making progress? I had a conversation with a friend who was telling me, oh, we lack the expertise. And my question was very fundamental. How old are their expertise? How old are their experts? What will it take for us to train our children that we know are bright and are capable and are willing to learn? So what is stopping us? And if somebody tells us also, oh, we don't have the equipment, how much does the equipment cost? And how much are we spending to support other people's equipment? So you see, we need to go back to the fundamentals and then imagine something that our Pan-Africanists imagined of a continent capable that can go into negotiations with the proper information, education, the confidence, and the willingness to do what it is that helps our continents to grow and be sustainable. That is also very, very important. So we should move ourselves from a position where we think others must do things for us. No. Nobody should be doing anything for us. We'll be doing it for ourselves. And it's about time. Okay, we need to move away from, you want to do your budget and how much is somebody is bringing you, how much is the person not bringing you, all that time wasting. Spend it on how much you can give yourself. So it is about putting the self forward. It's about putting the country forward. We've done a lot, so let's not give up.
Yeah. Wow.
So much has been done. We have our blogs and so on. Yes, we are not perfect. We have a system we need to continue to grow. We have, like everybody else, but we need to be focused on the vision. And the vision is to have, as President said, the Africa we want. We cannot just have an Africa we want. We must have an Africa we work for.
Wow.
And contribute for.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And an Africa we are willing to sacrifice for. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you for that. I mean, when you look at the African continent, our power is growing globally. Whether we realize it or not, we are relevant and our power is growing, and we must take that space. I think you're invoking knowledge and understanding. If we don't know our roots, if we don't know our history, if I don't know what made my grandmother bleed, the same thing can make me bleed tomorrow. Why? Why make the same mistakes? Why do we not understand that our own nutrition that was turned into orphaned crops, we stopped eating certain things that are now being studied as medicine, right? So we must connect back to the knowledge and have that self-belief. Your Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn, you a part of this Africa School of Governance, understanding the need to give back and build a cadre of leaders who see these things, who understand these things. What do you think is the biggest mindset challenge we're dealing with?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me recognize my leaders here with me in the panel. President Paul Kagame, the Vice President of Ghana, and President Thabo Mbeki. First of all, I think I would say I became co-founder standing on the shoulders of the African giants you see here. I think when we started this discussion, I was Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of my own country. By the time, I remember 2 of the giants are here, and the rest, my giant, which is the former Prime Minister Meles Zenawi. He is a global mind. And also President Bouteflika of Algeria, and as well as President Obasanjo, of course. He was not able to join us today, but he was part of that journey. This core of the African leaders were the ones who were discussing on issues while we were listening to the details of what should be done to our continent. I think now this school is the culmination of those discussions that has been taking place for several years. In the formation of African Union, transforming from the OAU, this discussion was in the place. When we celebrated our 50th anniversary of the OAU and transforming and designing Agenda 2063, this discussion was there. To me, Agenda 2063 is a meta-African agenda, which contains all of the ingredients we are talking now. And President Mbeki also mentioned on the policies and programs we set for ourselves. The blueprints are there. So what's lacking? So we felt that, everybody was discussing. Even in that discussion, we were very clear from the composition of leadership in the African continent. I want to be frank and candid. From the composition of leadership in the African continent, it was very clear that the current leadership in majority is not fit for the African continental transformation. It's because of the mindset, which is more of not developmental mindset, but a rent-seeking mindset, which dominates. So I met, before coming to this meeting, a Chinese guy, and he was telling me, I see some progresses and growth in some African countries, but most of them are stagnant. Even some of it are decaying. So, why? It's simply because there is a need to change the political economy from rent-seeking dominated political economy to a developmental political economy. And that calls for nothing short of leadership. Right. So leadership is a key. Therefore, there are a number of issues that we can mention, the mental setup or the mindset that has to be changed. But our future, even the current, rests on our young people. Wow. So if we do not, cultivate a critical mass of future leaders now at this time, because it's a generational journey. It's not just fixing in a month or in a year. It should go for generations. And that calls for beginning somewhere. And I thank President Kagame. So that discussion, when I was out of office, I raised this discussion to him. Mm-hmm. I said, President, you have been discussing this issue for several years, but the progress is still stalling. What can be done? Then he has the vision of doing this school, and I subscribed that vision and shared that vision, and we started this school as a place where there will be a movement, a practical movement like this one. This is a big movement now. So if we don't participate our masses, as President Mbeki was saying, we cannot change Africa. Right. So only political elites cannot change Africa. Only business elites cannot change Africa. We need the masses behind the agenda. And that can only be done if we do have a cohorts and critical mass of leaders, young leaders, that are taking responsibility for the future of our continent. That was the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very, very, very clear. Your Excellency Thabo Mbeki, we've had the honor to hear from you already this morning. I want to move to the areas of focus that we really need to double down on, whether it's sectors or issues. We are living through very difficult geopolitical times, very difficult. And in some ways, Africa seems to be once again on that table when they divided Africa in the scramble of Africa. You feel all these interests surrounding the continent. So we have to double down and deliver on the continent, for the continent. We have to position Africa globally, and at the same time, there are headwinds that we face. What would you say are the things that we really need to be focusing on in terms of how leadership pushes forward in spite of all these challenges, number one, and number two, maybe in terms of sectors of areas, issues that we really need to have a laser-sharp focus on?
I think I must repeat what has been said and what I was trying to communicate earlier. Even with regard to the matter you are raising correctly, of a very complex world situation, really, really seriously, this issue of the quality of leadership on our continent is critical. If we don't attend to this matter successfully, there's no major African problem is going to be solved. It doesn't matter what the problem is, including the ones about Africa's place in the world. So the challenge is this. What do we do to produce this kind of leadership that is needed? And I think in that context, the point that Prime Minister Haile Mariam has just made is very important. That this leader is that we want. He can't drop from the skies from somewhere. The masses of the ordinary people become important.
Mm-hmm. That's where the leader comes from.
Those are the people who must produce this leader. You want me to elect you as president. What are you going to do about it? In fact, I'm hungry. I'm poor. I live in these conditions. I elected you 5 years ago and these conditions have not changed. Why must I elect you again? So I'm saying that we have this critical challenge. How do we produce this leadership? We had, in our history, correctly, this matter that's raised. The continent struggles for its liberation. You have a common Nkrumah from Ghana who attends the 5th Pan-African Congress in 1945 in Manchester, in England. So you can see this history. This is somebody who's very steeped in this matter. Ghana must be free, Africa must be free. What must we do? Well, the Vice President was saying, ready to sacrifice and all of that. Paul Kagame is sitting next to me. Particular challenges in Rwanda, which must be addressed. And they'll also mean that certain sacrifices must be made. So those conditions dictate a certain kind of behavior. So you therefore produce the common Nkrumahs and the Paul Kagames and all of these people. But we can't say, can you recreate those conditions so that we continue to have these leaders? No. A new situation arises. Prime Minister is saying, a new situation where we take over our countries, we're running our countries. This leader who said our task is to make sure that our people are liberated. And I'm ready to die for that. The next generation, or maybe even that leader, they are now in power. What next do I do? Put money in my pocket. Self-enrichment. It's a very prevalent problem on the continent. But I'm trying to say, Julie, that there's a question that all of us must ask and answer. What is it that we do to produce this kind of leader? Not to decry, not only to decry the fact that we don't have them, but you say, what is it that we do in order to have them? And part of I think, the response to this challenge, again, I refer to Prime Minister Haile Mariam. President, I think, is to be honest with one another. You see, if Thabo Mbeki is doing wrong things, Paul Kagame should not be diplomatic and polite, but to say, but you are doing wrong things. It's because I was trying to indicate we are mutually interdependent.
Yes.
So what wrong things I do in South Africa will impact on Rwanda. So you can't say I've got a sovereign exclusive right in internal affairs and so on. And that's one thing that should happen.
Thank you for that.
But the challenge is, practically, what do we do to produce this kind of leadership that we need? Right. And that answer is not easy.
It brings us to a philosophical question. Are the greatest leaders produced in times of the most intense crisis, right? And actually, Africa has surpassed that stage in most places of most intense crisis. So how do we produce the next leaders that Africa requires? Let me come to you, Your Excellency. You started us off really with a lot of food for thought about everything we have in place and our failure to act. And we started to get some indication of what the problems may be. If you were to point out to one sector, one issue that you want to see movement on, and so all of us will listen and say, okay, this is how private sector aligns, what would that place be where we can and must focus and move? What's most urgent?
There are a couple of things that are urgent, but let me start with, we are here in this institution, this school, and we are addressing young people here who are even aspiring to be leaders tomorrow. I hope they are listening.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because all these things that are being explained very well. And then they develop to a certain level, and they start behaving just like what we are talking about that has led to. So that is a starting point, and that will help things to change. The second thing is, from what Haile Mariam said, the Chinese who talked to him and said, so many things happening across the continent that shouldn't be the case, and where some developments here and there. What is so disheartening is that the same places, and there might be many places on our continent, where things have stagnated or have been deteriorating. The leaders in those places are not bothered. That's the first thing. And from the leaders, people start even either being desperate or something, they also start giving up. And a situation becomes hopeless for 5 years, 10 years, and it's like there's nobody. But of course, when it comes to selecting legitimate leaders, and at the point that President Mbeki made, there has to be legitimacy. There has to be legitimacy at the national level, but you should not neglect legitimacy at the continental level. And then that again comes to the point where when leaders are there and some of them are not doing the right thing, it's true, we should have the courage to raise it. Because you can't just use the sovereignty, you are messing up a country that has a sovereignty indeed, and then you come to the continental level, you also messing up. And we have to keep quiet because by sovereignty, you happen to be there. And by that, to a degree, it has come to a point of legitimacy. That should not be enough. Sovereignty and legitimacy combined should also be demonstrating that people are doing the right thing for themselves or for those they lead. And we can't be made to, we should, even the young people here should develop having the courage to find a form in which they can express this one way or the other. So the conversation goes on. Now, the investments we have to make, we talked about leaders, and leaders definitely are the ones in the end responsible for all the things we do. When we do wrong things, they have their own consequences, and you can see how this affects people. So the governance aspect of it all is very important, because I can tell you that we can invest in infrastructure, we invest in health institutions, education, or all these are important. We can invest in agriculture for food security, to be able to feed ourselves. These are very important. They are actually key. But depending on the governance structure, these are either going to happen, or even when they have come to being, they will be able either to give the results you expect or not. The politics behind it all will decide whether the infrastructure you're investing in, or whatever you're investing in that is going to improve the lives of people, will stand and work for the benefit of these people. So we can't, before we talk about the different sectors we have to focus on and so on, so there is this thing that you are talking about mindset. People talk about vision. You talk about all kinds of things. The mindset drives the vision, drives the plans you put in place, and how these things are executed to deliver. So they are connected. So we already having a good example where we are saying even at a continental level, we have these policy frameworks that are really well thought out. They have laid out step-by-step things that we can do. But is this something we are going to sit with like an ornament in front of us, and we just keep saying, referring to that? But at the same time, when you measure the difference we have made to our people, the people's lives, you don't see much. So what is lacking, therefore, is not the resources. We have already been told how resources are there, or they can be found, and so on and so forth. But so how do we connect all this that needs to be connected and deliver? And delivering means you are seeing something there. The results should be there. It's not just thinking about I was told there's something, the term in psychology called, it says subtraction neglect. Subtraction neglect is driven by a certain bias or understanding where subtraction means loss and addition means means being productive. All right?
Yeah.
I'm saying this, let me give you an example, which we face in leaders who are here have led governments, and they say in my government, we are sitting in the cabinet, we agree to do things, and when the ministers have left, instead of going straight to do what they need to do, you hear when the next cabinet, when you meet, they say, okay, what is the progress? Minister, where are we? And then they start telling me, yeah, we set up a committee, and then, you see, so that there is everything, the committee, and then the process of, then another layer for approval of something, and, instead of going straight to the point, and because it was discussed, it was understood, all that remained was to just go and do. In fact, the president of African Development Bank mentioned that as well. We're talking about procedures, processes, then committees, then meetings, then all that. Some of those people think they are really doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And some people get even lost in the nice language in which they have to be explaining something.
And the long reports that they need to write.
And that's where the whole thing ends. So imagine if you are going to deliver on infrastructure and you have to go through this process.
You won't.
I mean, by the time electricity is going to be delivered, I mean, some people will have lost their lives because they...
Yeah. What we are talking about is the boldness to act, the courage to do things.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. You need to do, because anyway, even if you are fearing to make a mistake, you're already making a mistake.
By not doing anything.
By not doing it. So what is the excuse?
Can I, as I thank you so much, Your Excellency. My mind says some of these things were put into our policies and practices to slow us down.
Yes.
Some of these things in our organizations exist to slow Africa's progress down.
There is no question about it.
So you need to keep answering questions, checking yourself, doubting yourself, going back, bureaucracy in your system strategically to slow you down.
These things will make you go to sleep, happy, thinking you are fine, but you're not.
They lull us into a place of security
Absolutely.
when we are in danger. Vice President, let me come to you. Tell the room, what gave you the boldness to start doing some things that many other countries haven't stepped into, but you are doing? Where did that come from?
That's a good question. And I want to agree with President Kagame that we need to go beyond setting up a committee to review the report of the previous committee to give us recommendations about the next committee. We need to go beyond that. So, Mr. President, I share your frustration, and I think that we all need, along with people who are going to work with you to realize that particular conclusion. So I think that capacity building is going to be very, very important, and building the capacity differently from how we have inherited it. Otherwise, we'll keep asking the question, why are we here? Why are we here? Good question, where should we be? And what will it take? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Same question, Your Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn. What actions now? What do you feel is needed?
I think I would go for a story. You will somehow bear with me. Most of the audience here knows the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
Yes.
But most of you do not know the genesis of that. Ethiopia, in 1970s, was a poster child case, where 70% of our people in the rural areas were food aid recipients. When the government I served came to power, we learned we were trying to go the same way as others were going, but after 10 years, we recognized that we are at the same place, never moved. Still, our people are food aid recipients. So then we sat down and said, what's the problem? So the first thing is, people focus on white-collar projects. But the whole issue should center on our masses of the population. So we said our people, by the time, 85% were farmers and rural community. So we have to focus on our asset, which is our resource, which is our people. And then we have a land resource, we have water. So then we geared our policy towards agriculture-led industrialization, and we continued on going into that program. The first thing is, how can we change the mindset of our farmers from dependency? There is one joke which we always take, Our farmers were saying, let the rain rain in Canada, because the food aid comes from Canada. So that was the mindset. Then how can you make this farmer to be a productive farmer in its own plot? So that was the beginning of the revolution in our rural development. That was in 2000, and we moved 80 active sector, where energy is critical for industrialization. So that's why we channeled this saving, and because the World Bank and others were not able to finance us because of their own political reason, then we finance it domestically. Even a herds boy, let me tell you, even a herds boy has a bond.
Wow.
Every community was mobilized. And we were able to mobilize, and therefore we built our largest dam in Africa, 6,000 megawatts.
Wow, amazing.
The mindset shift, when you see practically, not only this, for the first time in 2015, let me finish, because this is a very good lesson that these young generation leaders to learn. In 2015, there was an El Nino announced that there will be a severe drought in Horn of Africa. We used to get food aid from somewhere, but we decided, okay, next year we have to make history. We will not get a grain of food aid on 2016 when this drought comes. This drought is the worst of its kind in the history of the country. But we were able to finance the supply from our own coffer, where we were able to come out. Then announce it to our people, we are now liberated from food aid. So that has made a very great morale to the people at large, because we were known as a poster child case. Everybody in the Western countries, every NGO is begging in the name of that small child, which is starving. Ethiopia was synonymous to famine. But we turned that down, and Ethiopia is now surplus producer. So it is possible.
Wow. And we have to remember the history of Ethiopia. If you go online and take a look, you will find Ethiopians riding with lions and fighting and making sure it wasn't colonized, and then going through that. Your Excellency, come in. Yes.
Let me say something on
yes.
that. He's given us a good example of Ethiopia and what happened and what was done and so on. Let's for a moment think of Ethiopia as Africa, as a country. Let's say Africa was a country, just from that. And that is how the mindset is like the mindset change or reset is likely to work on our continent.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can I say, allow me to bookmark this, that the Mindset Reset Forum has got to be about saying no to the IMF when we need to say no. If it doesn't work for Africa, we say what? No. And you've told us it also happened, I know in Rwanda, it's happened in other countries where you've made a decision going against the grain. And then this is where maybe one of the important things is how we continue to finance our own development is a very, very important thing. We've got to wind up because of time. We could go on and on. I want to come to each of you to briefly, maybe this is the most powerful segment. I don't know how you will wrap this all up in one. These young people we have in the room who are listening keenly. I want you to remember where you were when you were their age. 20s, 30. Your Excellency, I know some of where you were and what you were doing, yes. But remember, if you remember, look back at that age. Look back at that age. And you know, Vice President, you spoke about sacrifice. I want you to each of us, to tell us, each of you tell us, where were you? What mindset shift happened for you to bring you to where you are today? What contributed to build the leader you are today? Maybe that will be of help. Do you think that will be of help? All right, all right. So, Haile Mariam, Your Excellency, can I start there, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the famine case, which I mentioned to you, when I was 9 years old, that happened. So I was from the southern part of Ethiopia, which is, bumper harvest area. So that has changed the whole of my career and my life and my political engagement as well. So to transform Ethiopia from a food recipient to a food surplus producer. And that has been the case, throughout, even my education. I am a water engineer by profession because I wanted to be an irrigation engineer to change the whole thing in the country.
Wow.
So
and
the
you
whole
have,
thing was shaped.
And you have.
Yeah. I think that was what has, necessitated. Even my political life was designed and came because of that. And I'm happy that we made some progress, but there is a long way to go again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that contribution, and congratulations that you were able to make a tremendous change. Madam Vice President, please.
Well, I know that the audience is not interested in hearing my life story.
We are interested.
I think many things. And let me pay tribute to my parents, to my teachers. I think I had good teachers who taught us to read beyond the syllabus. And that was very helpful. To read writers who were not included in the so-called canon. So that opened us and my generation or my friends to reading so many other things and other books about where we have been and where we were. But I think that at a very practical level also, maybe living away from home and recognizing, as a child, I thought, I think I've said this to many of my friends, I thought that our food was very boring. And I complained that it was repetitive and so on and so forth. But all of these sometimes come because you don't have anything to compare with. So then you step out and you realize that, but some people have only 2 staples. Now look at all the things they do with them. Then you ask yourself, so if I come from a part of the world where virtually everything grows, why are we importing food? So what is going wrong? Where are the other Ghanaians here?
Yes.
I love bread too, so it's okay. Every other village has an oven baking bread using wheat. And it's gotten to a point where we don't even see it as an imported food. And that is part of the mindset. I'm not saying it's a bad food or what is stopping us from developing our other grains into the same items that we can also use to bake bread, right, or use to make medicine, right, or use to build our houses, or use to teach our children. So what is it that is moving us away from ourselves? And, you know, coming from the campus, I used to ask my students, when we say somebody is educated, what do we mean? And it was like a joke. But finally, we see the picture. It's like we've been raised to move away from ourselves. And we call that, where are the young people? Are they here? Mm-hmm. You're all here. Thank you very much for coming. You are very, very important. And you need to recognize that your education should ground you in where you can be.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Your Excellency Mbeki, can I come to you? Where were you in your 20s and 30s, and what lessons did you learn about mindset shift that have driven you forward?
Well,
we did leave you last, President Kagame. Let us. Oh, okay. You want? Okay. Go
Let
ahead.
us speak.
Okay.
Go on.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Anyway, for me, it's long ago. I don't even remember. But on a serious note, my understanding over time is that we all don't have to go through similar things or difficult situations to turn out to be. No, whatever one goes through in life, there are moments when somebody should, again, you use the word choice. People, I think choice is important. People have to make choice about and identify what purpose they attach to their lives. And for me, when I was young, it was all kinds of problems, but that came with a silver lining, in a sense that they made a number of us who lived that life at the early stage to say we shouldn't accept this. And therefore, we even risked our lives and said, it's just either it's your choice to live like this, meaning like nobody, and in those hardships, or to give it a fight because you don't accept it. So, together with others, we made that choice, and we decided to shape the kind of life we wanted, irrespective of the fact that we were also aware, by doing that, the life we are looking for may not be lived.
Wow.
Yes, we made that choice, very conscious about it. And later on, when we got involved in trying to shape the life we wanted at a very high risk. Of course, many people didn't make it through, but others stayed the course, because it was a choice, it was a decision, however costly it was. And there's another challenge that is associated with that over time. Having gone through that, made those hard choices and taken the risks. Actually, there's another side that keeps, there's something ringing in you and saying, so if I took this risk to shape my life to be different from what it was, am I the one going in any way to contribute to making people feel like I felt that time? I don't know whether I'm understood here.
That's a heavy weight.
So it compels you to say, I'll try to do my best, so that what I'm doing does not result into people feeling like you felt that time. That's what I meant. So, and this is in everybody's possibility. The young people, I'm addressing these young people and others who are following. It's in your capacity, in your ability, in your every possibility to say, to give your life a purpose and to make a choice. A choice that you know if you have made it, it's not just going to be confined to your life, but it has impact on other people's lives. So, and in fact, that's why it is important when people are talking about even continentally, why we should even work together. Because not working together, what does it mean? What purpose does it serve? Who benefits from it? So I just want to say, you try, give it a try, you fail, you make a loss here, you make a gain here, but stay the course.
Keep going.
Yes, keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
For avoidance of doubt, before I come to you, Your Excellency, Becky, for avoidance of doubt, in April 1994, Rwanda experienced the genocide against the Tutsi. It was a horrifying time where close to a million lives were lost. People were displaced. And a small army had to come in. His Excellency and a few others, young people, came in. And he has said, not knowing if they would survive, what they were coming to confront, the world abandoned Rwanda.
Actually, before that, my family went into exile when I was 4 years old. So a big part of my life, I was a refugee.
In Uganda.
In Uganda, in the neighboring country in Uganda. That's where I grew up. So the sort of hardships I was talking about were even relating to that. But from that, we grew up into this kind of determination to say, no, we can't just live stateless. We can't live as refugees forever. So that's why so the genocide in Rwanda had started long ago, in the early 60s. That's how I became a refugee with my parents. Some of my relatives did not have a chance to escape to anywhere. They were killed. That time, in the 60s. So the 94 one was just a repetition of what had happened over years. It was in the 60s and then early 70s and then 94. So some people, naturally, humanly, they could have lost hope and lost everything and gave up. Others, some of them were saying, well, in any case, I have nothing to lose. So let me try this one. If I lose a life as a refugee, I don't think I have lost much. But I had to build something that was, so I had to try to build a life that is worth something, and that one could stand up and fight for. So those who were not lucky didn't make it, those who were lucky made it, but we can't make the same mistake as those who made us, who created that situation.
Thank you. And look at Rwanda today. And so as young people, you have different problems. You have choices. You have to decide what you're going to do. You are in a different place. And hopefully by seeing the fact that those before us have gone through immense things, it gives us the courage to know that where we are today is a different place and we can conquer any of the challenges that we face as well. Your Excellency Becky, where were you and what's your message to young people?
I some things are similar to mine.
Like,
Yes, of course.
very similar to what President Kagame is saying. Well, you know, Julie, that we grew up in apartheid South Africa. So I joined the ANC Youth League I was 13 and a half years old. Joined, not recruited or anything, because it was clear to us as young people, the system is wrong, let's do something to change it. So that's how we become members of the ANC Youth League. So whatever the ages of the youth are here, I was in the struggle for the liberation of South Africa, whatever the years. Because that thing which was wrong had to be corrected. And we understood, again, as Paul Kagame just said, we understood things had to be changed in the correct direction, and you stay with that, whatever the cost. For instance, all of us, I had 4 siblings, 3 brothers and 1 sister. All of us left home at about the age of 7. So we always grew up not at home, but with other people. The reason for that is because the parents knew that at a certain point, they would get arrested and get sentenced to jail for many years. So we had to get accustomed of growing up without them. So that's how we grew up. So I'm saying, so whatever the ages are in the hall here, those were ages of struggle. So from, I've been 70 years a member of the ANC.
Wow.
Committed the same vision as when we joined the Youth League. What we do, and let's get rid of the apartheid system, let's change the conditions of people for the better and so on. As you know, our comrades in the former Portuguese colonies have got a very good slogan, a luta continua, a vitória é certa. I'm still saying that today. The struggle continues, victory is certain. Because you can see in South Africa that we are still left with a great deal of the legacy of the apartheid system. So the struggle hasn't ended. So you stay with the struggle, you stay on course. The commitment you made as a 13-year-old, you stay with it. And the reason you stay with it is because the condition of the people remains affected by the thing that was wrong 70 years ago. So this is what our young people now, we're talking about the African challenges. We're searching for answers to some of the questions, what is to be done, practically, seriously. That these young people must stay with that struggle until indeed the Africa we want emerges. And not say, I've said somewhere that when you are running a marathon, there should be no point where you say, look, I'm tired, now I'm dropping out. You got to run the marathon and finish. And I think that's a task of our people, young people here, that they must run that marathon to make sure that this Africa we want does indeed emerge. Thanks.
Let me add something that I thought. When I was talking about my case, and which is similar to President Mbeki's, as you said, fighting for a cause and so on. A couple of things have to be borne in mind, and that will help. One, you have to choose again. You have to be selective. There has to be justification for a fight. Don't just pick fights for the sake of it. I know young people are hot heads, and it would just feel like we went through that. We know what it means. So don't just pick a fight because you can't fight. Choose a moment. Choose what for. And it must be a just cause. And when you have been clear about it, you've done all the checks, then give it the fight it deserves. But be selective.
Wow.
Choose.
My father was a military man, and he always said, you do not unleash the military until it is a last resort.
Yes.
You do not go into a fight until you have no other choice, and you have different avenues. Leadership. So what we've heard from this conversation, leadership, governance structures, I think the idea that we have choices to make, but to make good choices, we have to have knowledge. We have to know where we've come from. We have to know the different paths we have access to. We have to recognize our own capacity, but the capacity of the network. Those around us collaborate. We have to stay on course. We'll make mistakes. You'll get back up, dust yourself off, keep moving. Stay on course. Let's give a big round of applause, please, to this incredible panel. Thank you, thank you. Please, let us also allow, I think, His Excellency, we can allow you, if you need to leave, we will say thank you very much. Thank you. Otherwise, if you will stay, either way, we are in your hands. A round of applause as they head down.